Recently, I've been a free agent for longer than I have since I started playing Splatoon. One consequence of that is that in doing tryouts and pickups and a draft league, I've been playing with a lot of teammates I'm unfamiliar with, and playing a lot of scrims where we lose a lot of games. Reflecting on it, I think one of the most important tests of a team is what happens when they're losing games like that. I'm not going to say I've got this problem solved and I can make the definitive guide on how to just not have to worry about it. It's something that I honestly think is a weakness of mine. But I hope that, in voicing my reflections on the subject, maybe it'll spark some helpful thinking. One of the first signs I've learned to pick up on when the games aren't going well is the team becoming quieter. Less conversation between games, but also fewer callouts sometimes as well. That pattern can be especially damaging. A team that stops even calling out and trying to coordinate with each other is a team that's already given up. It can be helpful sometimes to put a loss into context. It's alright, these guys are a div higher than us. We should expect to lose more often. Just keep calling your pushes and avoid staggers and do your best. Lightening the mood a little can also help at an appropriate time. Starting to crack jokes in the middle of a game isn't the best use of your time, but if there's a long silence after a match and people seem down, something to take people's mind off what's happening and remind them that they've got cool, neat, groovy poggers teammates might help people feel a little bit better. That said, I also think it's not an especially healthy habit to just distract from the task at hand every time. Losing means there's a lot to learn, and there should be a lot of critical thinking and problem solving going on during times like this, spoken or otherwise. Something to be careful about, though, is your tone of voice during those kinds of discussions. It's really important not to assign anyone blame, not to sound frustrated, not to put anything negative out into the team. Morale is important. A team with low morale will definitely play worse. Instead of, why weren't you picking up that flank? That was on your side. Or even, we need to stop letting these flanks get through. Aim for, alright, keep it up with those shot calls. Remember to pick up that flank on the right side so our BP doesn't have to worry about it. Don't patronize people, don't give empty compliments. But if all that's happening on comms are complaints and negatives, it can be hard to remember that there are some things you're doing well, that there is resistance that you're putting up, that even if you're being outplayed, it's not like nothing you're doing matters at all. They could definitely be beating you worse than they currently are. I personally have a problem with trying to problem solve too much. I'll try to rationalize, try to come up with some kind of solution, some kind of plan we can implement that will be better than what we're trying. And I always feel like I've got the right answer when a lot of the time I just don't. It biases me toward changing something that's actually working, missing the forest for the trees, picking at one individual play a teammate made too much when it wasn't what really caused us to lose in the grand scheme of things. A lot of the time, it's just that I need to stay focused on my fundamentals, on taking good fights, following up with teammates, calling out my plans, the basics, the things we already know, because that's where I'm getting beat. I've seen some players start blaming things that are outside their control, like lag, how strong a particular weapon is, maybe even what a teammate's doing, and none of that is ever good for morale. I've also seen players stop talking altogether and try to put their heads down and vanish just because they feel insecure about how well they're playing. They feel like nothing they're doing is working and that therefore the loss is their fault, and they forget that it's also their teammates' fault. Another habit that I've been working to curb in myself, and that I've also seen in others, is apologizing in the middle of matches. A quick "my bad" might be a validation of someone else's play, something like, that was the right idea, you did your job, I just need to hit those shots next time, keep doing what you're doing. But if you start taking up a lot of time on the comms explaining why you made the mistake you made, that might even be helpful for you, but it's going to distract from what needs to happen next, and it's not really that helpful for your team to hear if it's something you just need to work on personally. It might be something that takes their attention away from callouts that they need to be hearing right now. Something I've also heard that is never a good sign is someone saying something to the effect of, I just can't do anything, that they're starting to feel hopeless. This isn't healthy, since, of course you can do something. You have all the same capabilities as your opponents do. Sure, they may be strong enough to beat you, but someone else is good enough to beat them, so there's something for you to be working on, something for you to aspire to. Losing isn't a good reason to decide that losing is just inevitable. Now, if it's something more actionable, like I can't contest this inkjet, so I need to rotate to another part of the map, that might get you somewhere. There, you're not just ramming your head into the wall over and over again trying to break it instead of walking around it. But I can't do anything on the comms isn't just affecting you. It's also affecting your teammates. It's taking up time on the mic that they could be using to make calls, and it's also communicating to them that you've given up on yourself, making it a lot more likely that they check out. Why try if the rest of your team isn't really 100% there behind you? Now that thinking doesn't make sense to your conscious brain. I can explain all day to you how it's still valuable to try your best even if your teammates have given up. But I'd be talking to a different part of your brain, your conscious brain, than the part that's making that decision in the moment. The subconscious brain is very suggestible, so don't suggest giving up in an inviting way to your teammates. I guess one last thing I've been thinking about is keeping your long-term goals in mind. How is this match going to help us make progress toward our goals? If you approach a scrim with that kind of learning mindset, you could potentially come away with a lot of useful ideas for improving, and it can be a successful scrim despite losing every game. The point isn't to win in a scrim, after all. It's to try your best, figure out why your best isn't working, and learn how to try your better than previous best in the next tournament. If the competitive side of you that wants to win is still eating at you, making you feel like you can't just brush off the losses, maybe try putting that energy into VOD reviewing and doing some real vulnerable reflection once your head is clear. If you can take a break after the scrim and rest easier knowing, I'll be able to learn and get better from this later, for now what I need to do is rest so that I can come to it with a better thought process and a better mentality at that time, then maybe that can help you put it out of your mind and do something else for a bit. I hope that was at least somewhat helpful. I've got some more thinking to do on this subject myself, but sometimes it helps to get my thoughts on the page, and if I'm putting it on the page, might as well go in a video. Good luck on the scrims I'm sure you'll be playing, given that the Splatfest is happening and it's the only way you have access to ranked modes. Thanks, Nintendo. Have a good one, y'all.